Welcome to another season of NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. I am Kyle Rickey with you for a 10th season here on the show, joined by my brand new co-host for 2022 and short track ace Chris Wilner, who's been part of the MRN family now for the last 3 or 4 seasons at least, working select events for us in the turns and on pit road. And now, Chris, want to welcome you into the NASCAR Coast to Coast side of things here at MRN.
Thank you so much, Kyle. It's a pleasure. And as somebody who's watched the show the last few years, it's an honor to take the seat next to you and talk a little short track racing. I can't believe it's already 2022 already. Feels like we just ended the 2021 season, doesn't it?
And exactly, we zip through the holidays, and here we go, off for another season. There is no one that I feel can take the place of Hannah Newhouse, such as yourself. When it comes to short track racing, I feel like you're everywhere. And we talked about the off season. You've been everywhere. I don't know if you've had an off season. I see you on Flow Racing. New Year's Eve? I think things kicked off at
Yep.
Tulsa Shootout. You did six nights at the Chili Bowl. Plus, you just got back from the Rolex 24 sports car race, working down in Daytona. So you've been busy. Have you recovered yet?
No, I will at some point, maybe after the show. I've really had time to digest everything, but it's certainly been fun. What off season, right? No rest for the wicked. It's been fun, and it's gotten a lot of really exposed me a lot to different styles of racing, and that's only going to make things better as far as what I can bring to the table. So I know nobody can replace Hannah, but I certainly will try and bring some of my knowledge here to Coast to Coast. But I'm excited, man. I'm pumped. I can't believe I finally get to work with you. This is a dream come true for me, Kyle.
This is gonna be awesome. I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be amazing, and it starts here today. Our first episode of the season. A lot to talk about. We talk about the off season. A lot of news have come down during the off season, including the schedules for this year: the ARCA Menard Series, ARCA East, ARCA West, and the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. All divisions that we focus heavily on. They all fall under the NASCAR umbrella. The Pinty Series up in Canada as well. And once again, in 2022, ARCA doesn't disappoint. One of the most diverse schedules. Again, I've seen, and we talk about it every year. It's like, how much more diverse can it get? But they keep beating themselves every year.
Yeah, they certainly do, and it's becoming that really premier series that launches a lot of careers. And obviously now you look at all the different tracks we go to and the different, really styles of racetracks. I mean, there's everything from DuQuoin to Talladega and the like in between. And you toss in, kind of that championship within a championship again with the Sioux City Challenge or the Showdown events, and a lot of these young kids are really getting thrown in the fire here, and it's been cool. Even just the last couple of years, I've paid attention to the Arc Menard series of just how intense this series has gotten from a competition standpoint, from also to all the different elements as far as the racetracks are concerned. So you're right, certainly doesn't disappoint again in 2022. I mean, this thing is loaded. It's kind of hard for me, Colin, about you to pick one I'm really looking forward to the most. What about you?
The next one,
Yeah, yeah,
which is the first
exactly.
one at Daytona, February 19th, right here. It can be heard on the Motor Racing Network, coming up part of a doubleheader day with the NASCAR Xfinity Series season opener. Over the next coming weeks, we'll dive into more of these schedules. Modifieds, of course, open up for the first time at New Smyrna, part of Speed Weeks on February 12th. The E Series is down there as well for the seventh or eighth year in a row on February 15th. So definitely more conversation about that in the coming weeks. A lot of racing already this off season. We'll start out west, Chris. One race that you weren't at, the Chili Willy
I
at
know.
Tucson Speedway in Arizona. A strong field, 27 super late models, and a familiar name at the point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually a race I was kind of hoping I could squeeze in at some point, but obviously with the shootout and the Chili Bowl, just wasn't really much time after I got from that. But no, it was an absolute great race. We actually had history too, right, Kyle? The first driver to win two Chili Willies in its 9-year history, Preston Peltier. So I mean, that's an achievement in itself, let alone winning that race. And with it being on Flow Racing this year, certainly got a lot of eyeballs on it.
One of the biggest super late model races on the West Coast all season long. 27, I believe, cars took the green flag, and Preston able to hold off Cody Vanderwall in a lengthy second half of the race. It was one of those events where the first half zipped right along, and then yellow and red flag fever flew over the last 60 or so laps, but Preston able to pick up the race win there. Couple of other events during the off season. Speedfest this past weekend down in Georgia. Again, good fields of cars down south.
Yeah, absolutely. And the car counts have been growing just exponentially every time we have these kind of crossover events with super late models and pro late models and modified tour style modifieds. I mean, just the type of talent that comes down there. And obviously, we talked about, or I'm sure you guys did on the show, ending 2021 of Bubba Pollard's kind of rise back to form in that 26. And Kyle, I think he's back. What would you say after picking up the super late model win down there at Speedfest and obviously rolling right along? He got the red eye victory as well earlier this year, had a snowball victory last year to cap off 2021. So Bubba's back, dude. What do you think?
I would agree. With that. He's been in the news, no doubt, a lot here over the last 6 months, including during the offseason, holding off Chandler Smith and Carson Hocevar. Very competitive super late model event down there in Georgia this past weekend. Michael Hinde, we should mention, also picked up the pro late model feature event. And those are just a couple of names that I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about, especially Bubba, over the next couple of weeks as well down there at the new Smyrna Speedway. Modifieds are at New Smyrna coming up. Chris, how excited are you to see the open wheel ground pounders tour that half-mile oval for 6 nights this year, if you include the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour race?
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly one of my new favorite styles of race cars as I've been following the short track scene over the last couple years, and they're wicked fast, man. And I think the car counts, especially on that side of things, are growing exponentially, and the talent too as well. And man, the ground pounders, as you call them, I mean, they absolutely just rip around New Smyrna. It's growing to be one of my favorite racetracks as well, just in general for short track racing. So I'm going to be locked in, but man, 6 nights, if you count, like you said, the Wheel and Modified Tours race, I mean, that is a lot for these guys to handle right off the bat.
42 teams and one of the most successful drivers over the last decade. They call him Big Money. Matt Hirschman will join us here on the show coming up after the break on this first episode of 2022 of NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Wing Nation is the show for sprint car fans. Hosted by Aaron Evernham, Ashley Strummy, and myself, the postman Steve Post, the three of us each have deep ties to the sprint car community, whether it's a connection and love for other fans of the sport, experience in the cockpit, or a passion and love for all things dirt racing. Each week, we offer up a live show on Tuesday at noon on Facebook and YouTube, a podcast every Thursday, and a TV show that airs Saturdays on MAV TV.
Well, I'd like to introduce something different here in this edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast. Throughout our shows, we always cover the results, the recaps, and obviously the big names and newsmakers across the short track racing world each and every year. But just how far down deep do these grassroots really go in the short track world? Well, it's February 22, and once again, it's time to talk about another racing season. But just like birds, race car drivers, they tend to flock south for the winter. And one of those popular destinations is the New Smyrna Speedway. And that's where Kyle Rickey's dug up some really interesting facts about what makes this racetrack really special. Kyle, what'd you find out?
In Samsula, Florida in 1964, at the intersection of Florida State Roads 415 and 44, there was a prime piece of land owned by the Hart family. Today, that same intersection is a landmark of the short track pavement scene. The story of how it got there, while intriguing, is a bit of a mystery. In fact, there's an article from the 1982 Daytona Beach Morning Journal that has 2 features. One with Dr. Robert Hart, who along with his parents, Clyde and Dolly Hart, owned and operated the facility at the time. And Benny Corbin, the architect of many racetracks, including New Smyrna Speedway. One interview on top of the other, both with conflicting accounts of the track's origin, from a lot for lease, to a dirt half-mile called Daytona Raceway, to the New Smyrna Speedway we know today. All things considered, what's not a mystery is the effort and care that has gone into the track and continues to make it a successful, fun, competitive environment for fans and racers alike. Through the first decade of its operation, the Hart family quickly began cementing New Smyrna Speedway as a racer's track, racing nearly all 52 weeks a year, only canceling races based on driver votes and impossibly bad weather, all while never lowering their purses based on ticket sales. From the late 60s through the 80s, the track became known for some of the best stock car racing, late models, modifieds, and even spectator races, where some either became local heroes or a warning for others as to the consequences of borrowing Dad's Cadillac for a track day. As the track grew and began to cement its legacy, so did some of the stars of the sport. NASCAR Hall of Famer Rickey Evans won just about every modified race there was to win, most more than once, winning over 35 feature events there. A lasting quote from Rickey being, "If you can win at New Smyrna Speedway, you can win anywhere in the United States." That's no small statement from a guy who had over 480 wins between 40 tracks and 14 states. After the sport tragically lost Rickey due to a fatal accident, New Smyrna Speedway dedicated an annual 100-lap race to his memory. Now in 2022, as the track legacy continues and new heroes rise, one driver in particular has begun his chase for a place in the history books at New Smyrna Speedway. A 35-year-old from Pennsylvania who has now won 3 consecutive Rickey Evans Memorials, along with 3 of the last 5 New Smyrna Speedway World Series of Asphalt Racing Modified Championships. Big Money Matt Hirschman has made New Smyrna Speedway his personal modified playground. After this break, we'll catch up with Matt and see what he has in store for the 2022 season.
Wing Nation is the show for sprint car fans. Aaron Evernham, Ashley Stremme, and myself, the postman Steve Post, each have deep ties to the sprint car community. Whether it's a connection to a former great, experience in the cockpit, or a passion and love for all things dirt racing, this show is a source of insight and entertainment for sprint car fans everywhere. Each week, we offer a live show Tuesdays at noon on Facebook and YouTube, a podcast every Thursday, and a TV show that airs every Saturday on MAV TV.
Back here on NASCAR Coast to Coast on the Motor Racing Network, able to catch up with our first guest of the 2022 season, a driver that knows the New Smyrna Speedway well, a track that we've been talking about a lot on this show, and we'll talk about over the course of the next couple of weeks, the home of the World Series of Asphalt Racing. Matt Hirschman, Big Money, joins us, a driver that's picked up the last couple of modified championships down there, last 3-time winner of the Rickey Evans 100. Matt, first off, thanks for joining us here.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, good to join you today.
First off, how's the off season? And part 2 of that question is, are you ready to get out of the Northeast and head down south to Florida and get going?
Yeah, I think we all are. That's really one of the big positives or bonuses is not just getting to get back racing, but it really breaks up the winter here in the Northeast. There's, it's been cold. We've had snow and spending a week plus, and if the weather cooperates, the average is usually 70 degrees. And, it's certainly, when you get back from that, then spring is just around the corner. But it seems like, it takes till you get through that and start to get closer to March till you get a little bit better weather up here. So it's really the best time of year to do this for sure.
Matt, we talk about your success at New Smyrna Speedway. What has been the key for you? And I guess, what do you like so much about that track that's adapted well to your driving style? Because especially, the accolades galore at New Smyrna Speedway in itself alone are just mind-boggling. So what is it about the racetrack for you that just sits well?
Well, I think it suits the modifieds well to start. It's even before I've really had much success there, I've said that I've seen some of the best modified races I've ever watched at that track, and it just suits the cars so well. And that goes back, 70s, 80s, 90s on. The modifieds have been a part of the World Series and have been doing this for a long time, and like I said, they just seem to be a perfect match for New Smyrna Speedway, and and recently we've been successful, and it's a fun track. You definitely can race and pass and put on some exciting shows. Just a few years ago, Anthony Nacella and I had a photo finish, almost probably as close to a dead heat as you can get. I still think I had my nose ahead, but it was decided that they called it live, and they thought he won, but it was that close. So and it was several laps of that leading up to that finish. So that was probably I was a part of one of the best modified races ever held there, and like I said, I've seen some others. There've been a part of some, but it just says just a great fit for our cars, and it's a big stage for us. A lot of people from around the country get to watch asphalt modifieds that maybe don't see us much throughout the year.
It is 5 consecutive nights of racing for the modifieds. You have won 3 of the last 4 week-long championships. You finished second the other 2 years. And with the exception of an occasional rainout, it's 5 straight nights of racing. What kind of a grind is that for you guys? How difficult is it, year in and year out to do this week down in Florida?
It's the hardest thing you could do as a race team, I believe. And we did the World Series a couple of times back in the late 2000s, and you kind of learn the hard way. I mean, you don't really understand or appreciate or just have the experience to know how to approach the week and how to manage the week as we do now, because we've been doing it consecutively now for 5 years with the PD Motorsports team, and I feel like I've got a good handle on it. I've got a good routine, and try to just like I said, I think manage the week is the key. It certainly helps if you're not wrecking cars and having to rebuild and repair. That can make things a lot easier. But like I said, experience and just managing and knowing what the week entails. And like I said, it's very tough on a team. It's a lot of work. Sometimes you can just get worn out, and performance will lack because of it. So it's important. It's its own thing for the whole year.
Well, you talk about the grind of just how it is during the course of the week, but this year with 42, I believe, entries in the modified division alone, I mean, why do you think that is, that we've just seen this staggering car count continue to rise as this event grows bigger and bigger? I mean, from your vantage point, why do you think that is?
Well, in recent years, being that it got condensed down to 1 week, and it's 5 straight nights of racing, where the modifieds at one time raced all 9 nights, then it was 8 of 9. And since they've reduced it to 1 week, the car count has pretty much just grown each year. And what I think a lot of the draw of it is all the attention that the racing has brought in recent years, with live streaming and things like that. There's a lot of people, I think, that have watched and probably sit there and say, we got to do this, or next year, we're going. And I think that's what's happened. I think the racing that we've done and the shows we put on, I think it looks like it's appealing. And, a lot of people, I think, want to just come down and try it out. So the last 2 years have seen record car counts. So it's really, building momentum. And, over the years, like I said, it's had its ups and downs, and recent, years have really been a positive. Even they've added a 602 crate modified class, which is basically the same type of cars, just with crate engines, narrower tires. and even their count is pretty solid in comparison to the other classes there. But I don't think nothing's going to top the Tour Type Modifieds in terms of car count and the shows we're going to put on. I say that with confidence that we're going to be the best show in town.
In one of those shows during the week, the Rickey Evans 100. Of course, we lost Rickey, NASCAR Hall of Famer in 1985. They have run this 100-lap event every year since at New Smyrna to button up a busy week for the modified teams. You have won this race the last 3 years. How special is it to win that event, take that trophy home at the end of the week?
Well, it's huge. Obviously, carrying the name Rickey Evans and knowing when they started the World Series, he was the guy to beat. He was the big winner in the early years of that, and it's at the end of the week. It's the biggest race of the week, and it just carries that special feeling and meaning. And I've said this for years, and I'm not knocking the payouts or New Smyrna Speedway, but the race doesn't pay what it feels like it is when you win it. It feels as big as any race that pays 10,000 plus that's held in the Northeast for these cars, the rest of the season. That's the type of feeling and satisfaction you get from winning the Rickey Evans Memorial. And I just wish it did pay a little bit better what it probably should or deserves. But nonetheless, the satisfaction you get from winning that race is as great as just about any race the rest of the year. So, that's a big deal. Like I said, I think when you go down there with a group of guys and girls and you work, for what used to be a week and a half, and now it's still a week of just nonstop grinding every day. And when that last checkered flag falls, if you're the one in victory lane celebrating the Rickey Evans 100, almost regardless of what the rest of the week was, you're going home flying high after that win.
And to kind of put a bow on this, we kick off the season down there in New Smyrna for a week straight of racing, and then it's hit the ground running for 2022. What are some of your plans for this year? Obviously, we've seen you bounce around from different teams, but what's your primary focus going to be here this season?
I think it'll be similar to what I've done recently because I've kind of been doing roughly the same type of thing now for several years. Now we interchange a few events here and there, but as far as generally how our season will look, I think will be similar to that. Not all the pieces of the puzzle are in place. There's still some schedules, the last ones coming together or coming out, to know exactly, where we'll be throughout the year from start to finish. But I think going to Florida and racing here for Speed Weeks and the World Series is kind of almost like a season in itself, or at least a segment of it. And then once you leave there, it's pretty much all you think about, leaving there for a few weeks. But once you then know what's next and you start to prepare and move on to the rest of the season, it's kind of becomes a distant memory that you really don't think about again until the final checkered flag falls, which is typically in November for me. Then you for 2 months you look ahead and prepare for the World Series. So like I said, we're kind of just focused on that solely for right now, and then we'll evaluate the rest of the season, or what we'll call the regular season, after we finish up in Florida.
Look forward to seeing you down there just over a week's time. Matt, thank you for joining us here on the show, and best of luck down there as you chase yet another World Series of Asphalt Racing trophy at the New Smyrna Speedway.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All the coverage is great, and like I said, it's one of the biggest things I'll do all year. It gains a lot of attention, and hopefully the modifieds, the Tour Type Modifieds, don't disappoint.
There's another title here in just over a week's time at the New Smyrna Speedway. Big money, Matt Hirschman here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. We'll have more after the break.
Wing Nation is the show for sprint car fans. Aaron Evernham, Ashley Stremme, and myself, the postman Steve Post, each have deep ties to the sprint car community. Whether it's a connection to a former great, experience in the cockpit, or a passion and love for all things dirt racing, this show is a source of insight and entertainment for sprint car fans everywhere. Each week, we offer a live show Tuesdays at noon on Facebook and YouTube, a podcast every Thursday, and a TV show that airs every Saturday on MAV TV.
Wrapping up this first edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network, Kyle Rickey and Chris Wilner. And Chris, we have talked a lot about the World Series of Asphalt Racing getting ready to kick off here in just about a week's time at the new Smyrna Speedway in Florida. A lot of different divisions, including big money Matt Hirschman headlining for the modifieds, but a lot of other big names and some big numbers across the board set to head to Central Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just run down the list, and not only we talking about Matt Hirschman, but in every single series that we have between super late models and pro late models, this is kind of going to be the mecca of how we kick off the grassroots racing here in 2022. And certainly the big names have signed up for it, with Ty Majeski coming back. You've got tons of big names, including Kyle, some breaking news we just found out today.
Yeah, as we're recording this, the Bowler Racing Enterprises team, or the Old Blue car that's been on the modified tour up here in New England since the 1960s, still going strong. The very first winners of the Spring Sizzler at the Stafford Speedway in 1972, reuniting with their former championship driver, Ryan Preece, for a couple of events early in this season. They will be paired together at the NASCAR Modified Tour season opener at New Smyrna, and then again for that Spring Sizzler at the Stafford Motor Speedway the third weekend of April. So I think that's a huge boost to the entry list. Obviously a big name. Ryan has run well at New Smyrna in years past, and I think one of only a few drivers to challenge Matt Hirschman for not only checkered flags down there, but the week-long championships.
Yeah, for sure. And then you just go on down the list with a guy like Derek Griffith back, trying to eye a third consecutive super late model championship. He's in the field. Eric Jones was announced. He's going to be there as long as it doesn't conflict with his Daytona schedule on the Cup side of things. So you just see it. The reach of this event is starting to grab a lot of big names, even from the outside, our traditional short track big names that we see each and every year. And I'm excited to see who's going to challenge Matt. I mean, obviously he's kind of set the benchmark, but there's a lot of names, including, Bubba Pollard, we mentioned, kind of is expected to, not on the entry list yet, but is expected to at least run a couple of the big races, including the Orange Blossom 100 as part of the week as well. So take your pick. I mean, there's a lot of favorites going down south this week.
And this is something I think fans have been asking for, wanting to reconnect the National Series of NASCAR to grassroots racing. And we saw it a little bit at the Tulsa Shootout. Kyle Busch was there in, 3 or 4 different divisions over the course of the 3-day event. We saw it at the Chili Bowl. We've seen it the last several years at the Chili Bowl with the Cup guys getting at it, Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson. Chase Elliott's been there. And now we're seeing it at New Smyrna, a little bit more convenient. This racetrack, just a few miles down the road from the big track. A lot of these guys are already in town getting ready for the Daytona 500 Speed Week. So I think this is what fans want. You mentioned Eric Jones, Ryan Preece. I'm sure there's some others that'll pop up on that entry list before all is said and done when the official entries are in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. And, we talk about it each and every year, especially, when you mentioned the Chili Bowl and some of the drivers in the shootout that have competed in that. But, look at like Travis Braden, a pavement specialist that took part in dirt. I think more and more drivers are realizing the importance of seat time, and no matter what vehicle you're in. And so it's really cool to see some of these names tackle these challenges of the super late model or pro late model or whatever different short track division that they can take part in, just to get that added seat time, to get their feet back into it. Especially for a lot of these drivers, not a lot of off-season work has been going on, so they want to get kind of back in race shape before they tackle their day job, on Sundays. So you're right, but it's a big win for the fans. It's a big win for the event and just for short track racing in general.
And if you can't make it down there, I think the other big news this offseason is you can watch it on flowracing.com, a streaming platform that we're familiar with, that especially you're familiar with the last couple of years with the Tulsa Shootout and with the Chili Bowl. More asphalt style racing added to the platform. Last year, Stafford Speedway up here in Connecticut started that trend. Thunder Road, Oswego all jumped on. And man, look, the schedule this year is incredible with all of the divisions that we're going to be talking about each week streaming on Flow Racing, including the World Series, including ARCA, Pinty's, the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. Big news for short track fans across the country.
Absolutely. And big news for just the convergence of race fans. I mean, we're finally going to get a lot of different exposures from different sides of whether you're a dirt track fan or an asphalt fan. And now we're going to get just race fans because we're going to expose a lot of these fans to new different styles of racing. I mean, heck, there's lawnmower racing on there, Kyle. I don't know if you checked that out over the off season. Like, there's everything for any kind of race fan, and it's only just going to grow the sport as a whole. And super props to Flo for getting on board and to having the NASCAR roots, element to it, as well as all the dirt short track stuff. And we're going to see a lot of big exposure come from this, and it's only going to help grow the sport.
I think I clicked on a snowmobile race the other day, like a 500-mile snowmobile race or something crazy. It was insane, but yeah, you can watch it on Flow. Of course, all the USAC stuff, sprint cars, midgets, Silver Crown, All-Star Circuit of Champions on there as well. So a lot of options, and now NASCAR Roots and all of what it has to offer, part of that package as well. When it comes to this weekend, I think it's our final off weekend coming up for a lot of us. Any big plans for you? I say for me anyway, you haven't had an off weekend yet in 2022.
No, this will be pure rest, relaxation, recharge the batteries, maybe play some iRacing, and then get fired up for another season. So it's the off season, and now is the off weekend, but I'm going to take advantage of it.
Be heading down south here before you know it, and everything gets underway in just a couple of days' time at the new Smyrna Speedway down in Florida for the World Series of Asphalt Racing, something that we'll be talking about here the next couple of weeks. Certainly will be a lot going on down there in conjunction with Race Week down in Daytona. Chris, been a fun first show. Look forward to doing it throughout the entire 2022 season.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. It's happy to be here. First show's knocked out of the park, and I'm excited to talk about the World Series next week, and a lot of the action's going to happen. I feel like we're going to have plenty of storylines to talk about next week for sure.
We'll look forward to it. For Chris Wilner and our new producer, Hank Silver, joining us for the first time here on the Motor Racing Network, I'm Kyle Rickey. We'll see you back here next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.